for the ones standing guard, for the eagle-eyed, for the knights in shining armor, and for all those who support them. We are Grainger, your experienced safety partner, offering supplies and solutions for every industry, committed to helping keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com/safety, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
So we met each other at church, and we had just moved to a new congregation. My parents moved around a lot. We had moved into a congregation where his family was. I just remember us having a shared interest in X-Men and video games, and it was like when New Jack Swing was swinging. So we used to swing dance, which is kind of silly. He was like one of my only friends and the son of an elder, so he was trusted. Obviously, we could only hang out with people who were in the church, so we weren't allowed sleepovers with other people or really to associate with anyone who the organization calls worldly. And yeah, we would play like X-Men action figures. And then one night he was just, have you ever touched yourself? And obviously this is like such a wrong thing to do. And I was just like, no. He's like, it's just like a joystick. I'm old, so it's like still like Atari time. But he was like, just play with like a joystick. And then he was like, have you ever had anyone suck you off? And obviously you're like 13, 12. You're like, no. Like, so we sucked each other off and it was pretty fun. It was just eye-opening in a sense of like, okay, I like sex. Sex is good. Hi, I'm Daniel Saint, and you're listening to Good Sex. I am the chief conspirator of the New Society for Wellness Sex and Cannabis Club in New York City. Good sex is a group activity. Good sex. Good sex is my entire life. I was raised Jehovah's Witness, which is kind of a fundamentalist Christian cult. Masturbation was wrong. Having any impure thoughts around sex were wrong. Viewing any sort of pornography was wrong. And yeah, sex for me was always seen as something that was shameful and to be judged. I feel like there's so much from that period of time that I have like just blocked out or just like try not to think about. I don't know. I just remember him being important. He was like one of my only friends and the son of an elder. He was like an important person in my sexual understanding, my sexual discovery. He was the first person I really like engaged with in a sexual way. It's hard to think about it because like I did care about him very much and I loved him very much. There was like a certain innocence to it that was quickly taken away once people became aware. As I was like preparing to get baptized, like I had to like tell them what happened. You would have to go before the elders if you kind of experienced, normal sexual feelings or emotions, and you would have to be condoned, and they would announce it in the congregation so everyone would know that you did something wrong sexually. That was difficult. It's like you have your best friend, like someone you're very close to, and like there was definitely, some sort of attraction there or some sort of like whatever playful like exploration, and then that being used against you and you having to like, basically they made me call him, read him scriptures about being gay, and then tell him I can no longer associate with him. And I think that always stuck with me, that feeling of betraying someone that you care about, that feeling of betrayal. So I'm Puerto Rican. I, biologically male. I identify personally as two-spirit, don't necessarily feel male all the time. For Tayanos in particular, these are the natives of Puerto Rico. Individuals within early tribes were deemed two spirits in a sense. In modern day, we call that trans. For a lot of people would consider that trans. But back then it was just like, you didn't have to be all masculine or all feminine to be identified. So I'm very big on letting people know that bi does not mean binary, does not mean male, female. It means myself and others. That can be trans or pansexuals or women or men or people who you feel sexual attraction to or an emotional attachment to or, an energy from. Sex is very much so about the energies that we produce through sexual activity. It's very much about the not only mental benefits and physical benefits that come from it, but also the emotional healing that can be built through sex and enjoying sex and having great sex. Growing up Puerto Rican, growing up in a Spanish family, machismoism is a big part of that. There is still that drive to make sure your boys are boys, and you do not cry when you're feeling pain. You do not, share, or you don't emote. You're not allowed to do these things. It comes from our sexual partners as well, where if we display any sense of, femininity, if we don't get hard quick enough, like things like that start coming out. And then there becomes like this feeling of, I'm not being man enough. I'm not being who I'm expected to be. I think that causes a lot of shame and a lot of internalized shame. Like we see it in men. We see higher rates of suicide. We see higher rates of depression, higher rates of stress. And it is this constant feeling that, you're not being man enough. It's very heavy. It's like fucking heavy as hell. Thank God I run a sex club now. I secretly applied for colleges just in hopes of getting a scholarship so I can get out of my parents' house and start making decisions for myself, at which point I was able to like explore and see what was out there. You kind of go from this ultra conservative kind of mindset into then like, okay, I'm going to break away from that. You kind of run right into, things that you just were never taught about or never learned about. I just started going to stuff. I lived in New York City. I was in college. I was young, and I would just go to random things, hotel rooms and other spaces, and I just didn't know any better. So like I kind of was enveloped in it through a lot of those experiences, and being the 18-year-old sneaking into the Eagle, like you learn a lot about leather and piss play and like kinky stuff, very extreme kinks pretty quickly. So yeah, if you have a high sex drive in New York City, you are going to discover kink at some point. You will find it. It is there. It is very much there. There's a lot of things that kind of made the creation of NSFW happen.
Daniel and his team started NSFW in 2016 as an elite sex club where members can take part in exclusive parties, erotic events, and educational classes.
I just kind of, in a sense, fell into it through general curiosity about sex and trying to understand my own sexuality. And with that came a desire to, in a sense, teach people how to do it safer and be more conscious of like how we're approaching that. Not seeing a place for bisexual men is definitely something that had an impact on creating this. The desire to understand the different elements of sex and what goes into kink play or fetishes or tantra or just intimacy and touch and communication was key. I've spent a lot of time exploring a third orgasm for men. So you have the ejaculatory orgasm, which happens, and then you have an anal orgasm, which is stimulated prostate. And then there's a third one, which feels like pinpoints that like shoot up from your head. And you like tremble and you shiver and like you completely like kind of you go brain dead. It feels like you're going brain dead. Yeah, and then you try to catch your breath and try not to cry, and it feels very holy. It feels very, very holy and godly and connected. And just having a partner who like pushes you to like new orgasmic levels for me is like good sex. It's definitely designed as a sex club, but it feels like you're walking into a home. I'm just happy to do it because, like, I don't know. It's just the shit I went through sucked. And I'm just really happy to have a place to, like, do good things for people and help people understand that sex doesn't have to be a scary thing or a shameful thing. I think people deserve that. And I hope more people are inspired to copy us and do the exact same thing and bring this to as many people as possible. Crazy New York City story. So I was like running errands. We were having like a New Year's Eve party, just picking up things. And as I was entering, he just like kind of called my name. He was like, Daniel. And he was like, turned around. And then he said Daniel Santiago, which is like my name. For a second, I just couldn't figure out like why this person knew me or knew my full name. And I turned around and like, it's like almost as soon as I looked at him, I was like I know exactly who you are. It made me call him, read him scriptures about being gay, and then tell him I can no longer associate with him. And we haven't seen each other since this phone call, like we were like 14. Talked to him for a bit. He like obviously has been out of the organization for a long time, and he's like, "Oh, I've been seeing what you're up to. It's really cool, like what you're doing with NSFW." And I was like, "Yeah, you have to, definitely come to the clubhouse, come hang out." And he came, and we were able to like discuss things a little bit in a very adult, mature, like, I can't believe we're both in this fucking crazy cult sort of way. I don't know, it was just like this, it was this feeling, it was extremely healing. I feel extremely blessed for having that opportunity to kind of like cry out that moment and really kind of feel the feel and to apologize for betraying that trust and feeling like that was the only way for me to be closer to God. he understands and understood that it wasn't my fault necessarily. It was because of this thing that we were in. It's because of, how we were trained or how we were conditioned. And I care about him so much, even like just from being friends to now, like I just, he's always going to be someone I love and care about and cherish. It took 20 years, but it had a happy ending. You can follow me on Instagram at Daniel Saint, or you can follow NSFW at We Are the NSFW on Instagram. For the summer, we'll be celebrating the Summer of Lovin'. We're going to be open for 100 days straight to bring back all those sexy people who missed us through the epidemic. Thank you for listening to Good Sex.
Good Sex is a Lemonada Media original, produced by Claire Jones and Matthew Simonson. Our supervising producers are Chrissy Pease and Jorge Olivares. And our executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax and Jessica Cordova-Kramer. Music is by Dan Molad with additional music from APM Music, and sound design is by Matthew Simonson. If you like Good Sex, the show, not, why don't you rate and review us on iTunes? And you can follow us on all social media at Lemonada Media. Thanks for listening.